reading from the law as especially having been assisted in the manner in which that the lawyers for the board, members of the board have done, do you think that they have directed the fines at the wrong place?
Well, first of all, let me put things in perspective. And Samson, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks to your cherished viewers. First of all, I think I agree with Boafo and Co. Totally. They are right in their approach. You see, some of the determinations they made are supposed to be made by courts or the High Court. Some of the determinations that have been made by the PURC are supposed to be determinations made by a court. For example, you will see, I mean, we are not in a law lecture, but you will see that even though there's a problem with some spelling I've seen in that letter, the veil of incorporation, for example, yeah, you've seen that. Instead of VE, there's a VA, which
couple of typos in there,
is repeated in the letter. The veil of incorporation, there are circumstances under which it is lifted. And we know that that is done mostly by the courts. When the courts realize that you are using it as a cloak to perpetrate maybe fraud or...
Moko versus Kuma.
I mean, Moko versus Kuma is very clear on that. And so it's a very strict principle which is applicable by the courts. So the lawyer's statement was very clear, whether they have the mandate to act as a court. If they don't have the mandate to act as a court and go ahead to lift the veil of incorporation and etc., then they lack jurisdiction to do what they did. And simplicity, whatever they did, they concluded that was null, void,
but
and of no effect.
Our laws generally give such entities a bit of adjudicatory powers.
Absolutely.
So they are right to take the decision, and if you disagree, you go for judicial review.
No, you see, so first of all, you have to put it in perspective. If you read LI 2413, okay, and Act 538, there are very specific provisions dealing with how to exact penal consequences for acts committed by entities. The question fundamentally is, the act of the PURC in exacting the fine, do they comply with LI 2413 and the provisions
From where you say it, what's the verdict?
It doesn't. There's a shortfall. And that's where I was coming to actually look at it. Because if you look at LI 2413 and you look at Act 538 and the specific provisions that have been quoted, it is very clear that those determinations are made by the courts after, I mean, the issue has been brought before them and they realize that the conduct of the principal officers or officers of the company are such that we should attach personal responsibility at them. So they then go ahead and lift the veil of incorporation and find them as culprits and exact penal consequences on them.
But the
at this particular stage,
substantially,
even again,
it's not that they are not, it's not that they are, but that they are.
They are even saying that they are even not officers. When strictly speaking, board of directors, if you look at our Companies Act, they are not principal officers of the company. We talk about principal officers, we're talking about the managing director, deputy, then those who manage the day-to-day affairs of the. Take it that the board provides direction, policy direction for the company. The day-to-day management of a company is not done by the board. That's why when you go to the entity, you will not find an office, board chairman's office, board secretary's office, and etc. But you find the MD's office, the deputy MD's office. So the day-to-day affairs are being managed by the officers of the company. And strictly speaking, that is also defined by the law. It does not include the board members. So that is why they are saying that they lacked jurisdiction in even, and you know that in law, if you lack jurisdiction in taking a decision, you do take it, it's a nullity.
So from where you say this is going nowhere?
I think that, but I heard Dr. Steve Mantiel say something, and I would want to agree with him to some extent, that the courts should come in and make a determination on the matter. Because clearly, you realize that PURC is asserting that what they said was right, and then the response from the lawyers also state clearly that what they said was not right. And then they have cited the specific provisions of the law that have been flouted. So for us to get a determination that will satisfy all parties, then it has to be determined by a court in this particular case. But clearly from where I said, I think that the PURC got it wrong, especially looking at the basic provisions of the law in LI 2413 and the provisions of the law in Act 538. It is very clear that their act, they were virtually acting as a high court.
Imagine that eventually